Hey, this is Callum Blowmont, and you're listening to the Chanter Rant podcast. You can subscribe to patreon.com/Chanter Rant to be part of this insanely funny and informative program.
Hey there, Fooko.
Hi, Josh.
do you know what really crosses my fucking minch?
What's that, Josh?
It's when I have a concert in 10 hours.
Oh,
less than that, maybe.
Well, I don't know.
I got a concert in just a hot minute. I still have to finish 90% of the video content,
Of course.
including the slideshow, as is tradition. Entertain two very handsome and fun guests, and the person who is my pipe major, who's supposed to be helping me out with this thing, is sicker than a fucking dog, and essentially
all week.
Yeah, essentially sounds like a person whose vocal cords got sucked out into space through a fucking airlock.
I had way too much dilly down my throat this week, if you know what I mean.
Speaking of which, hello, my name is Josh. With me, as always, is my good bearded co-host who sounds like a goddamn fire victim.
That's me.
And if you couldn't tell by the intro, this is an explicit show. You get 5 seconds to listen to something else. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fuck. Go fuck yourself. Hey, I'm Josh. Welcome to Chanter Rant Podcast. Listeners can review the show on iTunes. You can
we
send
didn't
us
get them to
emails.
say fuck.
You can send us emails and voicemails. We play it on air. Like us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, YouTube. Check out the Chanter Rant store at chanterrant.com. This episode is brought to you by our patrons. Patreon.com/Chanter Rant. And last but not least, invite and share with your friends. Fusco.
Yes, Josh.
With your with your dulcet tones,
Yes,
would you like to introduce our two guests?
I would love to. So, first to my left, the legendary, we've had him on the show before. Well, actually, we've had both these gentlemen on the show before, but he's a longtime friend of mine. Used to be a douche, now I like him. His name's Andrew Hoinacki.
Also known as Cobra.
Known as, to the audience, as Cobra, yeah. And then to his left is the man, the myth, the legend, the brother of James Beaumont, Callum.
It's a great claim to fame. Callum, good to have you on the show, brother.
Nice to see you.
Cobe,
Thanks for having me.
good to have you guys in person. We've had you both kind of over the phone, but having you here in the very advanced Chanter Rant studios is it's an incredible accomplishment. I feel like. And this is how we know we've made it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're legit now. We've had Jack Lee. We've had people who aren't as famous as Jack Lee, like these two. So we've really done well.
I guess, yeah.
Stuart Little and Richard Parks, episode 100. Easy.
There we go. If we can get McWhirter, we're done.
So gentlemen,
wrap it up.
Before we get into any nonsense, Hoinacki, you just got in tonight, so I'm interested to hear some things from you. But Callum, you got in on Thursday, which was our Thanksgiving. What were your thoughts on flying in for your first ever American Thanksgiving in the most redneck part of Las Vegas?
And first ever Vegas trip.
Oh, yeah, it's your first Vegas trip as well.
New to the area. It's great. Fantastic. Yeah. A good meal last night at your house. Fantastic. Absolutely.
Came over to the folks' place. Got to watch us all consume copious amounts of turkey and whiskey.
Yeah. And you got to fly into Vegas. How was that experience?
It was wet. I actually brought the weather with me.
It was pouring rain when we got here.
No, I completely
foggy as hell.
Completely blame Callum for the shit weather yesterday. He brought the Scottish, just like when we went to Northern Ireland, it was hot.
It was nice the whole time. Yeah. Doesn't make any sense.
No.
But I was actually excited to show you the place. Like, hey, we're gonna drive down the strip and see all the cool shit, and you couldn't see fucking anything. It was terrible.
No.
It was a mess. But
well.
how about today? Like, you got a chance to tour around the strip a little bit.
I was a tourist today, which is nice. Doesn't always happen on the trip, but I walked down the strip, which is good.
Yeah.
Went to Bellagio, Caesar's Palace, all the Hangover hangouts. It was good.
What is your impression of like what you expected Vegas to be versus what you've seen so far? That sort of thing.
Yeah, it's pretty mental. It's
that's an accurate description.
Mental.
Busy.
How so?
Busy. Frantic. Full of tourists. Some weird and wonderful creatures on the street. It was good.
And then of course I caught these guys in the afternoon. Had to take them to the unofficial bagpipe bar. Well, not the official bagpipe bar really of Las Vegas, Frankie's Tiki Lounge.
Yeah, that's a staple for sure.
Where we had some strong cocktails.
Yeah, it was a very strong cocktail.
What did they sample? Did they actually get tiki drinks?
So me and Cobra got zombies.
Okay, good.
Callum is a no cocktail guy. In one mouth, out the same mouth. Very shortly, I'm told.
Is that true?
So he had a beer.
Just reminds me of a video I was watching earlier. No.
What video was that? But no, he had a hot box IPA from a local, local brewery, and he's like, it's fucking 8% this beer. And I was like, yeah, it's a local IPA, man.
Rules don't exist out here.
So Cobra, you flew in today. You're no stranger.
No.
To the Vegas scene.
I've been here since the band that shall not be named has a different name.
Mm-hmm.
Fair play.
Yeah.
So have we.
I know. I remember you when you were probably maybe 11, 12?
And still had a humongous cock.
Long flowing locks of...
But I know we went to Frankie's, went to Cornish, which is where the after party will be. I was thinking about taking them somewhere that was different than where they're going to be tomorrow night, but I was like, this time you'll actually get to just hang out and enjoy it. And not
they
feel
need
like
something to
you have
eat
to be on.
too. Yeah.
Plus, they were hungry and it's good food, good grub there.
Good game of pool as well. Don't forget that bit.
Oh yeah.
Well, none of my games were good.
We need to discuss that.
all of Callum's games were
all
good.
of Callum's games were good.
Except one.
Except the last
one.
Well, the last one when yeah.
And then we quit because why? Because I'm the champion and I will never play again.
Because you beat Callum.
My claim to fame is that I beat Callum in pool one time. He beat me the first time, but I beat him the second time, and I will never play him again. I will go down with that. And my gravestone will say,
Andy, here lies Andy Fusco. He beat Callum Blowmont. No context.
Doesn't matter what it is.
We're not going to say what he beat him at. People can infer the meaning to themselves, but so real quick, we have a couple emails. I feel like we should get through we should get through the nonsense early on because we gotta do a show.
We gotta get to the bigger nonsense.
We gotta do a show. We gotta entertain, and then we all gotta play tomorrow. So I mean, I've already succumbed to the fact that I'm gonna be tired and hungover.
You might as well just accept it.
If you're gonna be a bear, be a grizzly.
Exactly.
Yeah. So our first email that we have right here is from Sue. Fusco, you mind getting that one?
Sure. It says, "Dear Josh and Andy, who knew Chanter Rant could be so educational? Just finished listening to your show with Megan, and I had no idea that audio equipment will get drowned in a massive rainstorm. I feel so very educated now. Thank you for your public service to the piping community. It is remarkable how useful the content from this episode will be to me going forward. Hugs and kisses, your Dojo pal Sue. P.S. I'm going to have to erase the browsing history of my computer after that show." I imagine because she had to look up what sounding rods.
What sounding was? Yeah.
Do you know
Did you guys listen to that episode?
There were so many cringeworthy moments
in the Dominatrix episode.
I was out running errands when I was listening to that show.
Hopefully with it playing loudly on a...
Yeah, just on the, the sound system in the car. And there were so many moments where I went...
Dude, you weren't in the room. Oh my God.
Oh,
well,
man.
then I saw the photos and the footage on Instagram and some of that other stuff.
Yeah,
it brought life to exactly what I thought was happening.
Oh my God, dude. Oh my God.
Wow.
So Callum knows none of what we're talking about.
No, I don't know. I haven't seen it yet, unfortunately.
A couple episodes ago, we had a dominatrix on. You know what that is, yeah? Mm-hmm. To discuss sort of the life of a dominatrix in Las Vegas. And she brought like... Well, you saw the video of me playing. She put that mask on me.
Mm-hmm. Oh, she brought a lot of tools. Yeah, she brought a lot of tools to show us the tools of her trade, as you were.
We got to get a Callum Beaumont reaction to what a sounding rod is.
What a sounding rod is. Imagine a metal rod.
Wait, let me take my headphones off.
Of differing diameters that are pushed down your pee hole.
Oh my God.
To stretch it out.
And that's what a sounding rod is. Yeah, and people pay for that, which I didn't know.
I can't imagine.
I didn't know until that episode. So, Chanter Rant podcast, it's a learning experience for all.
Just going to educate the greater piping community to what is out there. What's out? What are your options?
What's available? What's available to you? Okay, so we have another email. This is from
you can
Ian.
Take this one. It's a longer one.
Ian says, "Howdy, fuckers. A serious email for a change, as the just try philosophy for tuning hit home for me and sent me down memory lane. I started out my piping career as a kid, learning from someone who was quite happy to tune my drones for me or just turn them off entirely rather than deal with them at all. I played 1 year of grade 4 solos and did so well that I went back for a second season at that level. My teacher suggested to my dad that maybe I had peaked. Hoping I was capable of more with a teacher who hadn't already decided I sucked, my dad took me to a local grade 1 pipe major and world-renowned hard-ass a few weeks later. My first lesson with him started something like this. Teacher: okay, tune him up. Me: what? Teacher: you heard me. Me: but I don't know how. Teacher: try. What's the worst that can happen? So I did, and it changed everything. Sometimes we just need a nudge. Sink or swim. In. This goes back to last week's episode where we talked about tuning and how you should kind of have to learn how to do it. It's also
it goes back to try of the week, tuning, keep going, et cetera, et cetera. There's a lot of things that hits here, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. At the end of the day, and it makes a lot of sense. It goes back to kind of the idea of building a solid core of solo players who can be solo players, even if they're not playing, grade 2 level MSRs or P-Proc. If they can tune themselves to a decent level and then approach the circle, that makes it so much fucking easier overall.
This email, actually, I wanted to get to this on purpose because I was very curious about Callum, who teaches a lot of kids. And you've taught a lot of kids over your years, I'm sure, Andrew, but tuning is not a thing for you guys so much. I mean, it is. It's just different. But, what do you think of in this guy's email, the old guy's approach of, there's definitely two schools of thoughts. There's the idea of people doing it for you forever, and then someday maybe you hopefully figure it out. And then there's the school of learn to do it very early and then you never have to do it again, kind of thing. What do you think of this? How this happened to this guy?
I think it's with experience on that. I think every individual's different when it comes to learning when to tune. I teach really, really young kids, so 7, 8, 9 years old. I wouldn't expect them to learn how to tune their pipes because I think at that age it's more important to learn the techniques of playing and learning just the basics of playing the pipes. But I'd say once you're competent enough on the instrument, you should be able to tune it up. I know Donald McPherson, the late great Donald McPherson, always used to be, that was the first thing, is that if you can't tune your pipes, you can't play any tunes.
Yeah, why?
So it was always the case of be able to tune your pipes first, and then from there play the tunes.
So what comes first, the tuning or the egg? Or the tuning or the technique, I guess?
For me?
Yeah.
Technique.
Okay. So then, you teach at Dollar Academy, right? So your kids are all the same age, what is it, 7 to 9? I mean, is it all that?
No. To begin with, there could be anything from 7 till 10 or so, but the range that we teach is 7 to 18.
Oh, okay. So then, at what point do you transition to like expecting them to do it themselves, or at least to?
I think. I sometimes think expecting's a strong word. I think sometimes following and just watching is actually a better way of doing it, especially for a young pupil. I think them following and watching what you're doing rather than actually taking them through the process is actually easier. So we make sure in their lessons that their pipes are always well tuned. They're listening to it all the time, so that when it comes to that time where they're matured a little bit, they can then get an understanding of it. I think throwing a kid into the deep end straight away is a non-starter for me personally.
Oh, that's fair.
I think you would want to let the kid understand how pipes are meant to sound, and to be honest with you, people who have been playing pipes for 20 years can't even master that. It's quite,
or 42 years, as we were discussing earlier.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. That's just the way of it. People have an ear for it, some people don't. But I think at that age, for me personally, I think they've got to listen to it and they've got to try and get it as natural as possible. Sometimes trying to work on doing that is the long way round. Rather than, it's like marching. For me, marching, trying to get someone to march in their own private lessons is very, very difficult. But if you throw them into a group together and they all try and do it at the same time, it's actually easier because they just follow their friends or they follow the ones that are more experienced.
Interesting.
So there's a couple things in that I thought I wanted to kind of drag out a little bit. One is the idea of when you have young students and like you don't want to burden them with having to tune immediately because it takes people years and years and years to really get that down. I would say, in my personal experience, a good tone, good tuning it's a moving goalpost. Like every year, you're better than the last time that you did it. And I don't know that there will ever be a point where any person and you play at a higher level than any of us, so you can tell me if I'm mistaken. But is there ever a point where you're just like, no, I've got it. I don't have to work on that. Like I feel like every time you get okay, that was a really good set. That was really perfectly in tune, but I could do a little bit better.
I think the basics, yes. I think there's a point where I know the basics really, really well, but I think the better that you get, the more refined you want to be.
Sure.
So that process never ends. When you think you've got perfection, you look for something more.
And the other question I had is because we don't, especially in the pipe corps right now, we have a decent amount of younger students doing drums, which is great because kids are great at just like you just tell them fucking do this and they just do it. Thank God. Like they're so malleable. You're just like no, like you're doing this, I need you to do this, and they're just like, oh, okay. Whereas with adults, it's like you're doing this, I need you to do this, and they're like, well, why? I'm like,
I need a 17-point explanation as to why I should do it that way.
Like one, I need you to explain to me exactly why I should be doing it that way. 2, I need you to stop yelling and inspire me to do it that way. 3, I need you to record and write down every single step of what you just told me in the lesson I just had so that I can access it at any time so I can do it that way. Like, it drives me nuts. Or, right now, especially in the pipe corps, we're dealing with mostly adults. And it turns into this thing of like, I need you to do this. And where a kid would do, okay, and they would do it, the adults are like, well, why? I'm like, that question shouldn't be in your fucking lexicon right now. Like, because I said so. Like, and then you become the parent that's just telling someone why, because I said so. Well, that's not a good reason. And then you get into this whole thing of like, well, okay, why? Because you're doing it wrong. Okay, well, where can I look this up later when I'm practicing at home? And it's like, you're not practicing at home. I know you're not, because otherwise you wouldn't be doing this wrong. So why do you need me to create an entire library of fucking material for you to look up? And I realize I might be getting too specific with this reference.
Wow, this is going.
But it's like, it's one of those things. I'm like, oh my God, like what else can I possibly do aside from 3 practices a week for 2 hours a day and all the technology that we have at our disposal? I just think we need to say, if you're over 32, just fuck off. You're done.
Well, I don't know about that, but I mean that would kill our band essentially.
I'm just done teaching you at that point.
90% of our band started later than they were 30.
I think that would kill a lot of bands.
Yeah.
We need to become like the Jedi Council. We are not going to take Padawans
that are of the Jedi Council.
That are too old.
You are not.
like I'm gonna have piping students, and they're gonna approach me, and they're gonna be like, "Oh yeah, I'd love to learn to play," and I'm just like, "Too old he is." And that'll be it.
Well, I guess that brings on a good question though. Is your approach? Well, it obviously must be. What is the approach difference that you take from adults versus kids? And this goes out to both of you. We haven't hit Andrew on this at all, but we'll start with Callum and then we'll go to Andrew on this.
I think it's the same approach actually, in many ways. This is not meant to sound bad, but I find it harder to teach North Americans than I do to teach Scottish people.
That's interesting, and I'm curious why. I bet I know why, but I'm curious.
You guys think too much.
Exactly correct.
And that goes to what Josh just says. I think there has to be a reason for doing something, and there doesn't need to be.
No, there doesn't.
At the end of the day, and I use the same saying every time I teach: just follow me.
Mm-hmm.
Just follow me, and you'll get it. It doesn't need to be. You need to go and lift your G finger up at this speed, and then you're going to lift that up next. It doesn't need that. You see, if you just follow something you do from when you're pretty much born. You follow people all the time. You follow what other people do, and it kind of makes sense. I think piping and sure drumming's maybe the same, but just follow someone. Follow someone. Pick out someone who's better than you.
Yeah.
And follow them. Just follow what they do. And I still do it. Mm-hmm. I still watch the likes of Stuart Little or Willie McCallum or whoever. And a lot of times I'm going to not. It doesn't necessarily mean copy. Yeah, it is copying in many ways, but take the good in what they're doing and run with it, rather
creating
than
a tool for yourself
of
to
course.
Use if you want to.
Massively.
Yeah.
Do you think it's just our rebellious nature?
Yes.
It's our pig-headed nature for sure.
So when it comes to drumming, do you run into the same thing? Because you teach Cobra, you teach drums in city of Chicago.
Full time. That's my job.
So what do you find when you're teaching drumming students? Do you find it echoes kind of Callum's experience or our experience? What do you think?
I think in drumming is incredibly physical, where I think piping is incredibly tonal. There's technique to both, right? But a lot of good piping comes from being able to produce good sound.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And drumming is more about rhythm, which is incredibly predicated on good really efficient, like smart technique. Mm-hmm. Smart technique will get you really, really far as a drummer. You can become quite a competent drummer, maybe not a really competitively successful one, or that kind of takes a bit more drive or ambition, but you can become a very, very competent drummer. People listen and go, that sounds pretty good. Mm-hmm. If you nail the sort of like basics, like just good basics. And I think that's something that we all share in almost any form of music, is good basics will lead to good playing, Yeah. And I think I'm probably one of the guys out there who spends a tremendous amount of time on addressing those sort of fundamental, motor concerns and that kind of thing. Are you playing this the best way possible to make it easy to play? It should be easy. Mm-hmm. If it's easy, you'll enjoy it. If you enjoy it, you'll do it more, Right. Yeah. And so a lot of it for me is trying to, with the kids, it's to kind of.
I hit that.
Sorry.
I hit my mic stand.
Mm-hmm. With kids, you can be very playful because they are. Adults find it hard to be playful, just because of the nature of being an adult. And I think if I can find a way to make it playful and enjoyable for an adult, and we can get them to that baby step of achievement, it's actually quite a fun process. And then they look back 2, 3, 5 weeks previous and think, I'm playing this stuff I never thought I'd even play. Mm-hmm. And then they get that moment of that aha moment, mm-hmm. and that motivates them to continue working on those things that will actually exponentially improve their playing.
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. Like I feel like maybe the secret sauce in teaching adults is like, I'm an adult. It sucks ass. Let's be real. We're all adults here. It sucks to be an adult. It's exhausting. It's expensive. But maybe if you can kind of instill that sense of play, like if you can harken back to like, hey, like remember when you were a kid and shit was fun? This can be like that if you do it. But I don't have the secret sauce, I think, to figure that out. I mean, I'm probably, well, one, I'm not a great teacher because I don't have enough patience. You're a good teacher with younger people.
Teacher with most people that aren't in my band. Almost everybody that's not in my band.
I get to a point where like I'm very from the surface. It like I think I do better than behind the scenes if you're like, you know, living behind my eyes. Because I can turn on the voice. I'm like, no, you got this. Like it'll be okay. Just run it one more time. No worries, man. Like just run it one more time. I'm here for you. And like in my head, I'm just screaming and I want to jump out the fucking window.
There's a thing I think that happens with adults that kids get very naturally because they're already living in a world of learning. They're learning their language. They're learning motor skills. They're learning, you know, history and sciences and a smattering of this, that, and the other thing. And the one thing that if you can unlock it with an adult is vulnerability, because adults they're not vulnerable by nature.
Well, they're not willing to be wrong.
Right. That's exactly it. So if an adult is willing to be wrong and willing to use that admission of, you know,
it turns into humility.
That's
like
all it is.
You need to, and with any instrument, you need to have a sense of humility.
You want to turn them around and bring them back to the childlike approach, and then take them through. It's the same reason why, like language learning in general, you'll learn a language more effectively, more efficiently, and more innately if you do it the way that you learned your primary language. Total vulnerability. We didn't know how to speak at all until we knew our primary language. You know, if you apply that to an instrument of any kind, pipes, drums, saxophone, whatever, you know, if you can bring that around to a vulnerability standpoint and allow yourself to come at it from, I don't know anything, so I'm just going to try and see what happens. And if you can engage that, you get this state of play that's actually quite enjoyable and produces results.
That makes a lot of sense.
Well,
like, you remove ego from the equation.
Right.
Well,
ego.
You try to.
No
and
ego.
That's the hard part. And that's what this email really stood out to me, and we've talked about it. We do this at the dojo all the time. We talk about this kind of stuff all the time, and where people get hung up, adults especially, is they get so hung up in their own ego that, I can't tell. Hey, I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to get it wrong. I'm going to get it wrong. And they get hung up on, I'm going to get it wrong, that they don't try to keep going. And that's, to me, the biggest pitfall.
It's self-defeating.
It's the pitfall is that they just don't keep going where you might have got it right if you kept going, you know, the tuning is specifically, but you know, you guys, yeah, I know you probably do, but do you know Lauren Cousin? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Lauren used to teach our band probably about 10 years ago, I'd say. Maybe he came in for a couple of seasons to work with us. And like the first thing out of the gate he like noticed is like, he said exactly what you said, is like, man, Americans are so funny. Like they can't get off the music. They can't like just do what I do.
I have
throw all that away.
I have that when I'm working with the pipers, and I'm like, don't look at your music, and
like do what I'm doing.
When they don't look at their music, they just look somewhere else or close their eyes. I'm like, look at my hands, asshole. Like this is better.
I think I heard a story of Angus McCall teaching. I don't know if this is true. I think it would be true. Known Angus quite well, but I think he was teaching a class. I think it was actually at Kansas City, Winter Storm, and someone put their hand up and goes, Angus, how do you play 2/4 marches? Like, for me, Angus is the best 2/4 march player in the world. I think he's incredible. And he's just like, I don't know. I just play it. Like, for me, that's our mentality in many ways. I think when you overthink things, it actually gets worse, rather than just go for it. But saying that, one thing that I think nowadays we've got great technology that we can use, sometimes too much, with YouTube videos or whatnot, in terms of how to
all
learn
the things that are surrounding us right now.
No. I don't mean that. I mean learning products. I think one of the best things that people can do for progress adults especially, is short-term goals, easy goals to reach, but recording themselves. It's an easy thing. We've all got a phone. It's easy to record yourself and listen back to it. You talked about 3 or 4 weeks later. Listen back to it, and you might actually hear a huge improvement in what you're doing. And it just needs to be short-term, just small goals, achievable goals, rather than something going, I'm going to play 4 tunes in 2 weeks' time and have them all memorised. Be able to play the first line well with really good doublings is better than nothing. So listen back to it and go, I can actually hear the difference. That sounds quite good.
People are notoriously opposed to recording. Well, not to recording.
You sound like shit.
I know.
we have a singing number. Callum, can you sing? Because I might need you to sing.
No, but I think I know what you're saying. I think that's a huge thing. I think people are scared to listen to themselves.
Oh, I record myself all the time, but listening back, I'm like,
I remember.
I
remember doing the first time I ever done it. I remember listening back, and I thought I was quite young. I've maybe been doing this 7 or 8 years. I've recorded myself, and I remember first listening back, young boy, hot shot, thinking, "Oh, this is going to be great," and then listen back, and it was absolutely awful.
All you can hear is your mistakes.
Yeah. But then the way I use it, I practice. I record every single session I ever do in the house, and the way I use it now is I always take out one thing or two points from each tune and work on them for the next day, rather than you can give yourself a huge list and never get through any of them.
right.
Just like a couple of points, work on them and try and improve them for the next time.
So is that what would you be your, especially for a low level player, what is your best advice for somebody to attack? It doesn't even matter if it's competition or just general improvement, but let's say somebody's reasonably competent, they know how to play, but now they're looking to, maybe they're grade 4-ish or whatever. How should they approach what's the strategy to their daily, their day to day that you would advise?
I think it all comes from the tutor. I think having a tutor is the key thing for anyone, no matter where you live. I think that's a great thing with technology, is there's no excuse. Well, there is an excuse, money. Sometimes an excuse,
Sure.
But I think if you want to take your piping serious and you actually want to be good at it, there's not an excuse for that. And for me, I think the biggest thing is always listen to your instructor, and never try and correct things that they're not talking to you about. Only ever work on the things that they are talking to you about, because have faith in them. You've picked them to be your instructor. You hope that they're good enough. It's not always the case. There's a lot of people out there who teach who are not very good. But I'm not looking at anyone. And I think picking on, just working on those things. There's people that say, "Oh, this is not right," or "This is not right," and "This is not right." Forget about that. Just think about the things you're actually being taught. And for me, that's where you actually see the biggest improvements.
Is that the same at your level? Like, what is your day-to-day strategy for improvement?
Same thing. Like Willie McCallum is my instructor, but I see him. He's more a mentor. I would say I see him 6-7 times a year, but I would never stop that. I will always have someone that helps me along, because you get into bad habits no matter how good you get.
Sure.
You always think something's better when sometimes it's maybe not. But for me, it's simple things. I try and take the simple things. If you can get the simple things right, you're 3/4 of the way there. That's what separates the good and the very good, I think, is the basics. And then the very good to the superb are the ones who can do that wee bit of magic.
Yeah.
But doing the simple things. So I just record myself, listen back, right, there's 2 points for each tune or whatever it is, and work on them for the next day. Simple things. I don't practice for hours and hours and hours. An hour might be all I can get in. I play chanter all day or pipes all day at school, but that's not practice. So I try and get in 45 minutes to an hour and just get straight to the point. There's no point in playing your favourite bits over and over again, because it's fantastic. Get to the bits that are not very good, and try and improve them.
So then I've heard this before. I think Alistair said this last year when he was here, but he mentioned, and most people I think do this, but putting most of their time into the small bits that are the issue. Not like, don't play your tune over and over and over again. Play the 1 bar 2 beat measure that struggles you or whatever.
Of course,
gives you a piece of.
Well, I think when you get to our level slightly. I guess it's for all levels really, but there's no point in the tune being great for 95% of the time if there's 5% of it absolutely mince. are not very good. You actually want to, that 5% will cost you.
Yeah.
So always work on the weaknesses.
So I have some questions that I'd like to kind of delve into, because I feel like on this show we tend to...
Before you get to that, hold on one thing.
Everybody drinks. That wasn't going to be a good segue, asshole.
Hey, it was getting way too serious in here.
I wasn't talking to you. I was talking to your asshole.
It was a contribution from his asshole.
So one of the things we do on this show often, when we're not getting spanked by dominatrices or stinking up the entire room, please light a candle.
This is awful.
Jesus
I'm just going to get into this
Christ.
campfire right here.
One of the things, but I feel like a lot of the time our topics of discussion tend to sway towards lower level bands, but mostly students in lower level bands. Like, okay, you're learning to play, or you're a grade 4 soloist, or here's your inspiration for doing slightly better as a student instead of as an instructor, maybe, and more of an instructor's perspective on how to be a better student. Because I have 3 people here, well, 2 that actually are legitimate instructors.
Fuck off.
And I personally, because I'm a selfish bastard, and I want to know some things that'll help me while I have y'all in the same room. I struggle with kind of maintaining enthusiasm, maintaining the ability to want to teach people who are driving me nuts and not working at home, not doing the work at home every week, things like that. What are some tips that you would give, not to students to be better students, but to instructors? Like what is the secret sauce? Because you're both professional instructors. That is your bread and butter. For me, I work my job. I take the limited free time I have when I'm not working, and I go teach people who aren't practicing a lot, except for a few cases, and there are always outliers. So, like, what is your kind of advice or secret sauce for instructors who are kind of riding that struggle bus? And I want to start with Cobra.
Sure. There's definitely, as an instructor, you want all your students to succeed, right? You really want them to, like, desperately, not because it makes you look better as an instructor, but because
the problem is you give a shit.
Yeah, you want them to feel all the good feels that you feel, from your playing experience or whatever. And so I think a lot of it is trying to get people to, so there was a little bit in some of the conversation that's been going on so far that leads me to something that I kind of sort of recently came up with. And that's, there's really, I think we can all agree, and I think there's been a lot of talk about the difference between practice and rehearsal.
Oh, yeah.
Practice is what you do at home, rehearsal is what you do as a group. I think there's also a critical other time. And I think if you can really inspire someone either through your charisma or just leading them down a certain path to where they develop their own want to play. I think one of the things that's lost in competitive music, which is what we all do to some level, some play for sheets. Sorry.
Shots fired.
One of the 6. But you guys do that because you want feedback, because you want to get better, So, but I think there still has to be, a certain playfulness and a certain desire to just be a good musician. So I think as an instructor, if one of the things you can somehow do, and it comes down to a very personal connection between you and your student and you, it's a two-way street, to develop in them or with them a desire to be a better musician, not just a better technician, not just better a producer of sound and rhythm and all these technical components to music, but to enjoy it. And somehow in that enjoyment also be improving, So one of the things that I like to say to folks, whether it's a student or just lending advice or whatever, is, when you sit down to a session with your instrument, right? Are you doing it to rehearse? Are you doing it to practice? Or are you just doing it because you love it? And I think there needs to be a really good balance of that. I think if you're always doing it to practice, you might burn out. You might find yourself needing a wee break, because you're like, ugh, I've been working on this stupid doubling or rough or flam or whatever, and it's just like, oh, I can't, and this thing that you actually love is killing you a little bit inside, Yeah. So
like it's killing me in Fusco.
If you can find this good balance of where you're really enjoying it, but you also set aside, maybe you find a good balance of knowing what the sesh is about. Mm-hmm. Is this sesh about trying to play well with the person that I'm playing with? Band rehearsal or small group rehearsal or whatever, drum corps rehearsal, pipe section rehearsal. Is this sesh about nailing that thing, that rudiment, that embellishment, that tonality, that whatever? Like this is a work session, or is this about me just playing music and trying to produce really good music and actually enjoying it? This thing that you've loved for however long you've loved it. For me, it's my entire life, and I'm not even like not even like my fingernail is Scottish. Like I'm Polish and Italian by heredity, but I love this thing that we do. And I get to days where I'm just like, meh, drumsticks, huh? Off you go. I have those days, like we all have those days. But most days I want to pick up my sticks either because I'm working on something or simply because I love it. So I think as a teacher, if you can inspire your students to love it, or if you can just what's the word? Like with a fire, if you can just fan the fire. Yeah. If you can stoke the fire of their passion for the instrument.
Yeah,
that'll actually get you really, really far.
Yeah, one of the things I've been looking at, and I've tried to have this where I'm a big fan of the idea, and I try this with people in the band and also people who are students. We're just like, if you can do 30 minutes, if you can't do 30 minutes, if you can do 10, and if you can't do 10, if you can do 5. Mm-hmm. And I try to tell people, I was like, take 60% of your practice to work on things that are goals and metrics. And take that last 30% and just do something fun. I don't care. Yeah. Like remind yourself that you enjoy playing the instrument by doing something fun with that other 30%. But yeah, it's difficult, I find, to get people to remember that they're doing it for fun.
It's still an art form.
Yeah.
This thing that we do is still art.
So Callum, you have kind of a different take because you have people that, you teach at a school. So you have a captive audience. You don't have adults sitting at my dining room table like I do, where they sit at my dining room table, tell me some fucking tale about why they haven't scheduled a lesson in 3 weeks, and also didn't practice in the meantime. Do you teach a lot of adults or mostly younger students?
I teach quite a lot of adults outside of school.
Do you find that there's a large difference between trying to inspire the captive audience of school students versus the adults?
Yeah, it's more difficult.
What do you think is the special? So adults are more difficult
by far.
Is there like a special sauce? Like what's the thing that is it? Is it just you have to know when to cut and run? Like you have to know when to cut them loose?
No.
Fusco. Foxtrot. Did you get the Vindaloo?
I did.
Get the Vindaloo pasty?
I got the lamb Vindaloo.
Where were we?
Anyway, we were talking about students.
Yes, adults. I think when it comes to adults, say the majority of adults you would take or you would teach, I think are mainly and
fucking rank.
It's terrible.
I think adults would prefer to do it for more enjoyment rather than for.
Well, hold on one moment. We're going to break.
Oh, this episode of the Chanter Rant podcast brought to you by the Chanter Rant store. Buy all your great Chanter Rant gear and t-shirts and even tank tops for the ladies. It's a hot one out there, this world's pipe band competition, so don't forget to head to chanterrant.com and buy yours today.
So what was that count?
So adults versus kids.
No, I think for adults, the adults that I take, there's not many of them that would do it competitively. And I think for an instructor, for someone like myself who's very competitive in pipe bands and in solos, it's very easy. And you mentioned kind of same thing, but you end up going down that route of wanting to always be competitive, and it needs to be better, it needs to be like this, it needs to be like that. But you know what? It sometimes just needs to be fun. Sometimes you can let things go. Does that Dublin need to be exactly right? Or can we just skip over that little bit and make a little bit more fun out of the tunes? And I find myself a lot of the time with adults who are maybe beginners or even retired people who are just want to play. I just let that stuff slip by. Forget about it. You're never going to fix it. They're not interested as well. Many people who are learning at that age are not interested in that. They just want to play a few tunes to the folk at home or to themselves in the house or wherever it is. They just want to play a few tunes, and I think you've got to realise that. And I think it's, I keep bringing up people, but it was Murray Henderson that says that to me once. I can't remember what piping school we're on, but he always says, Callum, just go in there and just have fun with them, with the older ones. Just let them, or adults, just go in there and play through a few tunes. And that's what they do at home. There's not that I wouldn't think many of them that would go home and do, right, an hour, I'm going to hammer this, I'm going to make sure that every Dublin's up spot on. They just want to play a few tunes, a few marches or whatever it is, some jigs, and have fun. And I think that's the thing we've got to remember.
Well, it actually changes my outlook significantly, because I do have some older students that, and I've always approached it from the idea of, I want you to get in the band. And the more I think about it, these fucking people are never going to be in the band. Like, not in a million years are they going to be in the band. So the idea of just enjoying it, and
I think you can work it out pretty fast with who you're teaching over the first 3 or 4 lessons. You can work it pretty fast if it's going to be for fun or if it's going to be something more serious. And I think it's important when you're teaching someone as well that you let them know early on what it's going to be. Sometimes you've got to be honest. It's easy to take that X amount of dollars or pounds each week off someone, but for me it's more than that. It's got to be fair. You've got to go, I'm sorry, but you have limitations here. We can have a lot of fun and give you all the tunes in the world that you want. You're never going to be amazing at them, but you're going to enjoy it, you're going to have a lot of fun. Or you have the one that comes in and go, you could be quite good, I think you should go down this path, and you maybe are a little bit more intense in terms of technique or musicality or phrasing or whatever it is. But I think it's important for the instructor to identify that quick and let the student know, rather than just pull them along and then they go to competitions and they're getting nothing for year after year after year.
That's not good for either of you, to be honest.
No, it's not fun to teach.
Well, it's not fun to teach. It's not fun for them. They're not getting what they think they are paying for. They're not getting advancement, which is what you're supposed to do, or, because that's what they thought they're hiring an instructor for. But on the other side, it's just it's painful. You meet every week and nothing's getting anywhere, and it's because you haven't collectively, between instructor and student, in that very important relationship, you haven't identified what's the point of all this anyway.
Right.
One of the things I do in I use a business term for it, but that's because that's where I'm comfortable.
If you're gonna drop AR grams, now's the time. Like,
no. But like,
you can plug yourself.
No, it's all good. But like, you can
plug yourself on the show. That's important.
I use a concept like I use onboarding. Like when I'm onboarding a new student, one of the things that I want to know from them very clearly is, what do you want? We need to because we need to determine if this is going to be a good relationship. Like if what you want is not something that I'm going to enjoy, which means I'm going to regret every moment of our lessons together, I like a paycheck, but I much prefer a student who actually really loves drumming You know, like, yes, it's important for me to pay my bills, but it's also more important for me to be able to sleep at night with a good conscience, knowing that I'm doing the things that are best for my students and that I'm encouraging them to do what's best for them as well. You know?
100%. Yep.
Yeah. So I think it's critical at the outset of a teacher-student relationship, whether that's inside of a band, inside of an institution. You know, I taught at a school for 5 years, at a military school for boys. 6th grade through high school, so 6th through 12, and had daily classes and all that. And yeah, there were people that washed out after like the first term because they realized that like it just wasn't for them, and that's okay. It's best that we establish that before we get too far down the road and we're both pulling our hair out. You know, you because you're not keeping up, or you because you just you look at the sticks or the chanter sitting on the table there and you go, there's that, or you're like, oh yeah, I can't wait to like get 1% better. That's going to be so exciting.
Well, and this is a very interesting and unique panel for me to have access to, the three of you, because I never wanted to do instruction.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that I don't enjoy it. I do enjoy it from time to time, but for me, it's not my profession. So it's a thing that I do outside of also just like working my ass off.
And you're actually, just to chime
you
in
guys,
for a moment,
and that's not like to say you guys don't work your ass off.
No, we do. But like, you're in the majority. The majority of people out there teaching piping and drumming, especially in North America, especially in the United States, are doing it. I don't want to say begrudgingly, but they're doing it because they're like the best person in the organization.
It's out of necessity.
Yeah.
It turns into a function of necessity, and I try to approach it with enthusiasm and gusto.
Right.
I also try to continuously steer students towards people like you guys, who that's your passion. Your passion is teaching, like, and it is like teaching is a thing where if you're not passionate about it, you shouldn't do it. like I grew up in the public school system here, where it's 51st in the nation of only 50 states, and no one's passionate about teaching at all. Like, I understand that about myself, but it's one of those things where, I mean, originally I took on some of the piping teaching duties because you were teaching this guy learn drums so he could teach drums,
right? Essentially,
because he is better at teaching. Well, not adults. You're great with kids. Adults don't like you.
Adults till they're in the band.
Until they're in the band.
And then Grumpy Fusco comes out.
Then it was like, it changes.
And we had a conversation.
That's a flam.
Yeah, like,
stop playing that as a drag.
We had a conversation early on in the year where I told you plain, I was like, what can I do to make you not like, kill yourself? One of the things was, I'm going to be doing drums. Can you teach all these random motherfuckers that just want to learn Amazing Grace?
I was doing a little bit of too much.
Yeah.
Bunch of the idiots that.
And I was like, yeah, how hard could that be? A year later, I have one student that showed up for one lesson and stole my chanter and never came back. I have 2 students that I haven't seen in 2 months that, I have maybe one who will eventually be in the band. I was like, Jesus Christ. And for me,
you let somebody borrow a chanter. Like, what are you thinking?
I let somebody borrow my extra chanter because I'm a nice guy, and it's gone. It's gone forever. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, you do this how often during the week?
I would never let somebody borrow my chanter.
Well, no, I mean, but I'm just saying, like, how many hours of your life have you spent listening to people that are going nowhere, and you didn't want to tell them that you should just go home and put a trash bag over your head? Like,
yeah, I never do that.
I don't understand that. But I also understand that teaching is not my innate natural ability, which is fine. Different strokes for different folks. The idea is division and specialization of labor.
Right. Attack your strengths. Or with your strengths.
I've held out on it for a year. I don't know how much more I can do.
Well, I've got more coming. I've got like 4 or 5 people that have been contacting me lately about beginner lessons.
That's okay.
And I just let me get through the concert. We'll be in touch with you after November 30th. Then
that's okay. I have a plan for that, but you're not going to like it. But I'll tell you about it later.
I've got a plan for you that he is given. Well, we've talked about a little bit since he's been here.
they can go to joshmceachern.com/dojo and get $1 off their premium.
What the fuck, dude? This is Chanter and not Josh's show. So we have a question.
It's not even that I want the kickback. It's just that I don't want to have to fucking sit down and do lessons.
Hey, that's Phil. So I have a question from the audience. We asked our live stream for some questions, and somebody wrote in and asked, this is for Callum, unless Andrew, you're welcome to answer if you want to, but what is your preferred pipe bag?
One that's airtight.
That's a good answer. Bridgestone.
Preferred. Well, what I use just now is I use a Canmore bag for solos, and for band I use a sheepskin. If I could, I would always play sheepskin, but I'm too wet a blower to allow me to use sheepskin solos. And I think for sheepskin, it just has that little bit extra harmonic to it. It's just a little bit broader in the chanter, where I think with the synthetic it kind of kills that a little bit, but it still works really, really well. I think a lot of the top pipers in the world now, you couldn't tell the difference between if they're playing a sheepskin bag or if they're playing a synthetic. Yeah, the better you get, you would start to pick it out, but I don't think there's much difference now. And for me, when I'm competing, I want to be able to play a 18-minute long Pibroch, and I want to get to the end without my pipes going crazily out of tune. So you've got to take all that into consideration. So so sheepskin for the band. And
so is it easier, like in a solo, when you're playing an 18-minute Pibroch, then you got to get to the end? Is not hybrid, but a fake bag versus a sheepskin, or leather skin, whatever you want to call it, better for that, generally speaking?
Yeah.
Is it because of the stuff you can put inside?
Well,
a
synthetic bag's still a bag. A fake bag would be a sleeve, because it's faking being a bag.
Well, okay, you know what I mean.
No, I think with the Canmore, I use the Canmore hybrid bag, I think it's called. But with that, you can put a moisture control system in it. The last thing you want to do is play a 18-minute long tune knowing that your pipes are going to go out after 12 minutes.
Right. Yeah.
What's the point?
Yeah.
So if you can eliminate that issue and put something in your pipes that you know they're going to last for that length of time, do it.
Is that generally how it's done at the high levels at this point, like the Glenfiddich and things of that level?
Yeah, I'd say there's only 2 or 3 pipers left at the very high level that still use sheepskin bags, and I would let's say there's maybe 1 piper that plays still cane.
Oh wow.
So it does happen. You can still do it, but I think technology, in a good way, again, has helped improve the synthetic setup.
Yeah. Now, Hoinacki, do you have a preference on your pipe bag?
Well, we actually have a question for Hoinacki from the audience.
Well, before we get to that, let me follow up that question then.
Because we gotta go back and forth. They can't just keep
I gotta say,
hammering.
last time I played an actual bagpipe would be about 22 years ago. I learned pipes as a follow-up to tenor, followed by bass, followed by snare, then pipes, and then drum major. And pipes was just sort of like an exploration to try and become a better...
Have you ever considered learning an instrument that would get you paid? Like piano or guitar or trombone?
Oh, like real money.
Yeah, anything.
Real money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately not. So the last pipe that I put on my shoulder was a cowhide. It was an L&M bag. I wouldn't know the difference. I can sort of tell the difference in the sound of the bands that I play with, and in judging, because I'm an ensemble judge, so I do listen to intonation and all that kind of thing.
I actually have a lot of questions for you regarding ensemble judging, but we'll get to that in just a moment. One member of the audience has a question.
Yeah.
Josh asks, Hoinacki, how about them Bears?
I think the Bears play sports. They play sports in the city where I live. I think they play the sport with the long brown oblong ball.
So far they haven't gotten knocked out twice.
I don't know.
I don't even. Josh doesn't even know what he's talking about.
I know zero about sports. I like going to certain sportsing matches.
Sports ball games.
Yeah. I like them to do the thing and win the points.
I've been known to cheer team at sports ball game.
I will definitely cheer for team at the sports ball game and eat nachos, hot dogs, and drink beer.
So if it's
but my band is actually the City of Chicago Pipe Band is in a business partnership with the Chicago White Sox. So we play on their behalfs for certain functions, and we played at the stadium about 2 months ago.
That's cool.
Yeah.
we have some new question from the audience. Fooko, why don't you pick your favorite?
Oh, an actual good question. Okay. A good question is for Cobra and Callum.
Just delete the ones that aren't good ones.
What was your highest high and lowest low in piping and drumming?
We're going to start with Cobra. Highest high and lowest low.
Highest high would be, for two very, very different reasons, a tie.
Okay.
So, the one of the tie would be winning the drumming in the qualifier for the Worlds in 2012 with LA Scots, before it went to all play system. That was when you had to qualify and then advance to play against the rest of the bands that had already qualified.
Right.
But in the qualifier,
Oh, you're talking about the perpetual premier North American pipe band?
but it was a really, really, really hotly contested year. And on the drumming side, Graham Brown's Peel Corps, that was when Graham was still leading Peel, and Mick O'Neill's Fife Corps, Adi Hoy's Cully Backy Corps, very, 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 very dangerously good drum corps, and others I'm sure I'm forgetting to mention, but like it was a really, really tough qualifier, and for us to come out so well in the drumming and make it to the finals with that is probably a career high for me. And then in terms of a personal high, oh my gosh, this just happened, and it was through lots and lots and lots of hard work of people who are truly friends and basically family.
You were invited to the Celtic Thanksgiving concert.
That's it right there. That's it. I came back to the stage at the Clark County Library. Or it might have been actually. It might have been.
Wait, there's a higher high. There's a higher high you have.
Just totally not self-serving, but sort of on a very, very personal level. And this is weird to say because it's in 3A, which is 3A, right? Like as compared to like what I had done with LA in grade
It's higher
1.
than I play.
Okay, but like, and a lot of people ask me, they're like, "Oh, why do you play with a?" I mean, you could play wherever, like. You could play with XYZ band, name the bands, and you're leading a grade 3 band from Chicago, but it's like it's home. They're my best friends, and it's a team of people that I truly love playing with, and I'm really enjoying the process of building that band, and that group and everything, and playing with literally some of my best friends in the world. And when we qualified it was the first time a band called City of Chicago ever went to the Worlds. Was 2018. The band was 16 years old or 15 years old. And we took the band to the Worlds, which was an undertaking of its own. And our goal was to qualify and then just see what happens. We had people who had never played outside a grade 4 circle until that year, or maybe the year before, but like to qualify for the 3A finals was a banner achievement for the organization and for the people within that and the challenge that we had set ourselves upon. And I remember like seeing our name come up on the screen at, the obelisk in Glasgow Green and screaming with almost the same ferocity as I had when we did well in 12 with LA in grade 1, it was just, yeah. So I would say those are my two highs for personal reasons and competitive reasons together,
That's awesome, man.
Lows.
Well, let's have Callum go too high. You can think about low for a second.
Yeah, I'll think about it.
You can think about your lows while Callum gives us some highs. Which of the times you won the Metro Cup was your high?
Which
The
gold
7th,
medal was the best?
The 1st, the 15th, which time?
I have no idea. The first one, obviously the first one.
Well, I mean, like, because you got to think like a personal high is personal, right?
Yeah, like what was like the thing that, like when you were a kid growing up, like that's the thing I want to play in. That's the one that I want to win.
Do you know what? The biggest high, and this might sound soppy or whatnot.
I don't know.
One of the biggest high that I've ever had in piping is actually not me being playing.
Really? What is it?
It's my school band. We've got 2 bands at school. We've got a juvenile band who are a very successful band. And we've got the band below that, which is a band that I take. So Matt Wilson takes the juvenile band and I take the novice A band. But it was last year. So I've been at school 5 years now. And last year we managed to win the Grand Slam. My novice band won the Grand Slam of majors, including the Worlds. And for me, that's not taking any of that success, but to watch a group of youngsters at an extremely young age being able to be consistent over 5 major championships and win all of them, for me is the highest point in my career so far. Taking away all my personal accolades or whatnot doesn't really even come into it. For me, that was something that I'll always remember, and if I get more of a buzz out of that than I do actually doing well myself. So for me, that is by far the highest point in my piping career.
Oh, interesting.
So that's an important point to be made to any ladies. Well, never mind, he's engaged, but but he has no interest in his own satisfaction. His love language is acts of service.
Yes, he wants to give it.
It's all about giving, yeah.
Yeah. As long as someone else wins, then he's happy. I can recognize that. Game recognized game, my dude.
Either of you have a low in your minds?
Who's the first one to get their career low? Because I know my career low. Like we'll do ours after they do theirs.
I think there's always minor lows. I've never had a real major low in piping. I think you always get to that fence that you find hard to jump. There's always simple, small things, but for me personally, I've never really had a low where it's really hit me. I think
liar. Okay, Cobra, you're up.
Okay.
I can think of a couple of occasions in my mid to late teens, going into my very, very early 20s. Considering I've been doing this for math, like 34 years. Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy. At 40-ish. Yeah.
We're not gonna say
you look. I'm about to say you look good.
No, I'll say what I am. I'm 41.
You look good, boy.
I'm 41. I've been playing since I was 6. And
no wonder you look worse because you're older than him.
By a
couple of year or two.
Yeah. There were times, and this is interesting because now looking back as an adult with different sort of a range of emotions or awareness, there were definitely times. In my first band, I grew up in one band organization, as a lot of people do. Traditionally speaking, you end up spending a lot of time with your first band,
and you never escape.
Well, if you live in the same town and there's one band,
it just locks you in, and no matter what, you never get out.
Bring me back in. But I grew up in one organization for about 17 years, and towards the end of that, there was a lot of disappointment. But as an adult, I can look back at that and think that it was maybe me setting up wanting something that wasn't necessarily possible because of the collective, where that organization was at that moment with the people who were in the circle.
So because of the culture.
Yeah, it was way deeper than me or whatever. But there were some times when I walked off the field in specifically the 99 and 2000 seasons, which led to me leaving my first band, actually. I would say that they're lows for two reasons. One, because I was really disappointed with how we did at the time. So they were a low at the moment that they occurred, because I thought, God, we should have been better than that, or we should have gotten placed higher, or had we cut so-and-so, we would have been X% better, or whatever. And that's just this little
getting inside your head.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the demon.
And especially like when you're 22, you know, and you're just like, I want to conquer the world, you know, like, oh, here we go, you know, like I'm just at the precipice of what I feel like is like the beginning of my real career. Like I've gotten all through these amateur years, and now I'm ready to dominate, you know, and I'm in a group where
not realizing that you don't know how much you still don't know.
Well, there's that 100%. There's 100% that. But you also react with your age. And so I think looking back on it now, literally the same number of years later as I had been playing at that point, that was the halfway to now, you know? And
you still have at least 1-2 more years ahead of you before you drop dead.
I've got
easily.
at least 5 or 6 months of playing left.
At the top of the mountain.
Yeah. But you know, it's in retrospect a low because of how we didn't really meet maybe our own expectations or my wishes. But in hindsight, it's a low because of looking back how I reacted at the time, and you know how I've matured since to understanding how growth works, how organizations work, how the interpersonal things of a band that has been around. Well, at that time it was like 30. I think we were 35 years old. The band as an organization. Yeah. And you know, this sort of stagnation that it can kind of occur, and all sorts of other stuff. But like looking back on it now as a mature adult, inferring that I'm sometimes mature.
I'm not so sure.
No, there's
you know what I mean? But like, yeah.
So well, because
it's a low because I'm looking back and thinking, I wish I hadn't felt that way.
You wish you hadn't been a 22-year-old when you were a 22-year-old.
Right.
Which you can't change. Know?
I wish the band had done better. And I wish for myself that I hadn't created that much.
It's not me. Who was that? Callum. That was Callum. Oh my God.
Drink, boys.
Finally, a guest challenges me. Finally, I have a challenger.
That
was very subtle.
Not really. It shook the floor.
Notice everybody looked at me when it happened. I was like, wait,
even I looked
there's
at
a
way to cut the tension though. It's good. I was being very emotional.
No. I actually appreciate that. There's a great poet. His name is Buddy Wakefield, who I like, and I'm paraphrasing. I'm gonna get this wrong, but he has a bit where he talks about how being alive has been a fairly humiliating experience.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
like
sure.
Unless you're Callum Beaumont.
Like once you come to terms to the fact that the person you were literally 7 days ago was a piece of shit compared to who you are now, and it's hard to realize, but I do feel that where it's like, oh my God, like the things I thought were so important
aren't
I have a couple of things to follow up on. One, Callum, question from the audience is this. It's actually a question from Big Rab. Big Rab wants me to ask you, you avoided him at Piping Live apparently this year, and he's like, hey man, what the fuck?
It's because he didn't want to be in front of a microphone.
I avoided him.
That's what he said. He said Callum Beaumont avoided me at the Piping Live this year.
Who's Big Rob?
Perfect answer.
Shots fired.
Perfect answer. We don't need to go any further with that. But actually, this is another question by somebody else that's actually interesting. What's the hardest thing you had to overcome in your piping career? Or has it all been roses for you so far?
No, not at all. I think everyone would say pressure. I hate talking about myself, but I was quite successful young. And I think in doing so, there always has been an expectation to perform at a high standard all the time.
Sure.
And I try my best not to think that, because sometimes it's not true, but sometimes you do feel that, and I think in yourself you put extra pressure on yourself. So for me, that's probably one of the biggest things that I've had to overcome with piping.
Was it harder younger? Have you gotten used to it at this point? The expectations must still be high.
Expectations are higher. The more successful you get, people talk about all weird things, records or whatever, and it's something I try to avoid thinking about at all. But yeah, you always get asked the questions about those sort of things, so it always comes up. But for me, it's trying not to allow that to be part of it. And I think, going off topic slightly, I think the older you get, and even being quite successful, I think it's important not to think about the competition as a competition anymore. For me, my competition, I would love to win all the prizes in the world many times, because I'm a competitive piper. It's only natural. But for me, I think I only want to better my last performance. That's the pressure that I put on myself. I want to just better that. If I can do that, I'd be quite happy. Rather than thinking about the 20 other people you're competing against, you can't really deal with them. I actually hope they all play really well. Yeah. I think that's the respect that needs to be there when you get to that level of piping, or anything really. You've got to have respect. So for me, the best way that I can channel my pressure or my performance is actually going, right, just beat what you've done the last time. It doesn't happen a lot. Sometimes it does. You get in a little streak, but for me, that's one of the biggest things that I try and do.
Does that apply to pool as well?
Well, I'm just waiting on the rematch.
So Hoinacki, you have an answer to that as well?
No. And can you repeat the question in your answer?
Yes. The question was, what is the hardest thing you had to overcome in your career as a drummer, I guess would say.
I'm assuming that's your guts.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I'm not gurgling over there.
he's beating his body is difficultly beating hantavirus right now. Yeah. So just let it ride.
Well, if we're talking about individual play, I struggled with even into older, I was in my late 20s or 30s or whatever, and I was still sort of struggling with, is this what is good enough, or is this what people want, or is this what's hip and trendy, and then counterbalancing that with what I feel is a more important question, and it led me to a certain answer of my own, is this me? And a few years ago, around about 2012 or 13, I made the decision to stop soloing, because I realized that the trend in solos is not something I wanted to do. It's not a positive or negative statement. It's just an observation that the direction that successful solo snare drummers were going at that moment. And I would argue that that's actually changed since. I would very much argue that has changed. This year's Worlds, in my opinion, is one of the most dynamic and interesting world championships in years.
Championships?
Yeah, the solos.
And for those of you who aren't familiar, when he says Worlds, he's talking about the Philip Worlds.
The Philip Worlds
Championship.
No. It's the Philip Worlds World Snare Drum Championships. Yeah.
Philip K. Worlds.
Right.
Snare Drum. Different Philip Worlds.
It's Robert Worlds. It's his uncle.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But no,
it's the Gaylord Worlds Snare Drumming Championships.
There were just several years in there where I was like, I don't really like what's going on. I'm not enjoying this. And I made the decision just to stop. And, listening to this year's Worlds, Stephen McWhirter is, with the exception of the medleys that Josh had to fix.
Hey, he fixed the medley.
Hey, they won, I guess. He must be right.
Steven, I've got a stick order for you soon. We played the McWhirter sticks. But
he's going to come on the show. He just doesn't know it yet.
Steven is unbelievable. He's unbelievable.
By the way, does anybody know that Callum works with Steven on a daily basis?
Yeah,
I found that out today. I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
He's going to come on this show eventually.
He's like, oh, man.
But like on top of that, like Gareth McLeese from Phil Marshall, previously Shots, playing the new British Drum Company drum was unbelievable. And Mikey McKenna, Blair Brown, and a Jake Jorgensen, a bunch of these guys in the top of this year's solo event.
I have to bleep all those names anyway because they're not patrons. So
sorry guys.
It's gonna bleep.
But like
also bleep.
I listen to the Worlds every year from when Gus Seacard used to put them up on Gus Web.
Son of a bitch, Gus beats me in the beard. Best beard every year. That cunt. Gus, you're a cunt.
Fusco. God damn it. Let's ring the cunt bell because Fusco called someone a cunt.
I actually like Gus, but he's got a better beard. What am I going to fucking do? He beats me every goddamn year.
Hey, Fusco, if you want to buy me a plane ticket, I'll hold him down and shave his beard.
Perfect. I like it. Do it.
You gotta buy me a plane ticket to the Worlds.
Anyway, so I would say one of the biggest things that I've had to overcome is sort of spots to realize that I didn't want to necessarily do what was expected, and so I just stopped doing it, and that I was perfectly okay with that because I had gotten into a sort of an adult mental position to say, I don't want to do what's expected, and it's irrelevant. I'm not saying I should have been good enough to win or anything. I'm not trying to make any assumptions here, but
trust me, if you start jerking yourself off on the show, we'll tell you.
Yeah, you'll let me know.
Yeah.
Or
you're fine, man.
Or you'll just show it to all the patrons. But
it's an extra 10.
Yeah.
It's an extra $10.
Right? Yeah. Well, it'll go up on the Pornhub channel.
Pornhub.com/Chanter Rant.
But yeah, I think one of the hardest things to overcome is just personal expectation and trying to accept whether or not it's the right time to go with the norm or to serve myself. And I chose to serve myself in the end. And so I overcame it that way, but that was a low, is like thinking, I just don't like the way this is going, and feeling really, really shitty about it for a while, and trying to adapt my playing and feeling even shittier. And then eventually saying a word I don't usually use in public, although I use it in private fairly often. Fuck it, this is for me. Yeah. And then since then it's been better, but that was a low. There was a couple of years there where I thought, why am I doing this? This is not fun anymore.
So I want to turn the loaded gun on my co-host here. What is your high and low of piping?
Oh wow, I didn't see this coming.
I know.
Well, his high was winning at pool against Callum Blowmont.
That was absolutely. It's the greatest thing ever.
Had nothing to do with piping.
Doesn't matter. It's slightly related to piping. Highest high and lowest low.
Don't overextend your voice because I already realized that we're fucked for the acapella bit tomorrow.
So
I offered to stand in, but he sings the high parts, and
you had that sweet baritone register like I do.
Yeah.
I think some of the highest high generally. That's ridiculous.
You sound like shit.
It's so terrible, man.
Just all right. Just don't think about it.
Is getting exposure and being in the room. We talked about it a little bit last week, but being in the room with certain players, certain amazing players, which in Vegas we don't have the opportunity to have this happen often, and probably Chicago as well. And in Scotland, it's like a dime a dozen apparently. And I want to bring this up to you a little bit. Is that like to be in a room when Stuart Little was playing and Alistair Henderson. Like we've had these guys out here and like just sitting there and listening to them live. Like okay, so one of the most amazing moments of my life was
we have the benefit of geography.
Yeah, was that the year we brought Stuart Little out to play, and he's by far my most favorite piper of all time.
Sorry, Callum.
Well, he's working his way up. We'll see how this weekend goes. But anyway, like I brought him to Eric's firehouse to warm up because he needed. I don't even remember why we brought him there. He wanted to play his pipes a little bit or whatever. So, and I was just sitting in the room because I had nowhere else to go, and we had this little office. It was a little captain's office, and he was just jamming, getting his pipes going. And I'm just fucking sitting there. I'm like, I'm sitting in the goddamn room with Stuart Little right now while he's just warming up, and it was the greatest fucking thing I've ever felt in my life. And it was just him warming up. It's not him playing at the Glenfiddich and at his top. It's just him jamming, and it was phenomenal. And then like we got chatting a little bit. And I'm like, like, have you ever? And I don't know if he was like this, and I can't remember how this went down. But I said, Stuart, like, there's guys out there, like, and you're the guy for me, where like I would listen to people's CDs because back in the early 2000s when I learned piping, there it is. Like I would listen to CDs was S of U and he was on it, and I'd be like, listen to what he was playing. I'm like, fuck, I want to play like that, and then I would like transcribe what he was playing and try to figure it out, and it was terrible, but I would literally write it down and listen to it slow motion and transcribe it and try to figure it out. And that was influential to me. Like that was a big deal.
But are you going to be able to execute that when you play your solo tomorrow?
No, dude. I'm lucky to. We'll see how I play. We'll see if I play tomorrow. But oh man, what if? Yeah. So I've been working on. I have a Stuart Little set that I call it. You
didn't go get the shot I told you to get either.
No, I did not. I called Ken, but not everything's been worked out yet. But anyway, that was.
Is he coming?
Ken's coming, yeah.
Tell him to bring the thing. I'll give it to you.
Emulation is the greatest form of flattery.
Oh, I agree. Like
tell him if he can bring a Kenalog shot, I'll give it to you on site. So I'm not licensed to do that, by the way.
No, that's fine. So there's a couple tunes he's done over the years that have like made me feel that way. So that was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced. We just got lucky enough to bring him in that year and all that kind of thing. So,
what was your lowest low?
There's so many. Let's see. Which competition was it? Remember that one in Flagstaff where I fucking walked off? Like I was going to... All right, so we got done with the competition. We marched back out of the circle, and I just fucking left.
That would have been like... That would have been a couple of years ago.
This was 4 years ago, maybe. I don't know what it was.
You just turned heel and marched off.
It was like, if I say anything, everything's over. So I'm out. But no, I mean, who knows? There's so many lows. Who the fuck knows?
Who knows which one's lowest?
There's so many lows.
My highest high easily was marching onto the field at the Worlds.
Okay.
With Ballybriest.
Onto the field or like which?
Like World Championships.
Which part?
We're going in to play
competition part.
Yeah,
okay.
that was it. Like that was my highest high I think I've ever had in bagpiping. I love that shit. I was dying at the time.
It'd be pretty rough if his highest high was marching on to the march past.
That's what I was thinking.
Man, I just really loved marching in with 10 other bands.
And it was so funny because we've told this on the show before, but I had like a severely sprained ankle at the time, and I was on cheap ass piece of shit UK medicine, which wasn't doing the job. But I remember our host, his girlfriend, come up to me and being like, "Are you okay, Josh? You look a bit pale." I'm like, "I'm in an incredible amount of pain right now, but I'm still gonna play." And I marched out on a fucking busted ass ankle into the circle. Didn't fuck up. I did fuck up Port Rush, but I didn't fuck up this time. And I was so happy to be there. I was just like, oh my God. All this shit that I've been doing for all this time has got me to this point where I'm playing with people I like. I'm surrounded by friends. I'm in this weird, wet, damp fucking country. It's super fun. I'm playing music that's hard. I enjoy this. That was my high. That was my happy point. My lowest low would probably be last year's Celtic Thanksgiving when Jack pulled me on stage to play at the after party, and I was
that was terrible.
and I was shit faced,
And he played absolutely awful.
and I said no. He's like, no, come up, and I was like, no, and he's like, come up and play. I was like, no, I don't want to, and he's like, no, come up. I was like, okay, and then like my pipes weren't there. He had his pipes and your pipes, and then I tried to play your pipes, and I couldn't because I just blew all the drones out immediately because I, one, was drunk, and 2, your pipes are too easy. And so it's just me on stage with a person who I consider to be a piping icon of mine, and I am just sounding like a service band bag of hammered assholes.
It was so bad.
It was the worst performance I think.
I wish we had video of this.
It was the worst performance I think I've ever done. And I should have just been more stern when I said no. Because I said no like 4 times. It's like, I don't want to do it. He's like, come on. I was like, no. I was like, come on. I was like, fucking Jack's telling me to go. I should probably go. No, it's just been like, nope. Because that was hours after I had considered, okay, nothing's happened. I don't have to play anymore. I can tie one on.
So I have one follow-up question before maybe we're heading to the end of this thing here. It relates to Callum. In relation to what I was talking about, and it has to do with sort of a little bit about inspiration and things you get to hear. I got to hear Stuart on CDs at the time. Back then was how I would do it, but now it's become YouTube for the most part. And obviously we're doing this whole thing on YouTube, and there's been such a blow up of like posting performances on YouTube and all that sort of thing, which gives people like us exposure to people like you, obviously. But you had mentioned, we were talking privately previous to this about how, performances in Scotland. This is what blew my mind, for example, is like Stuart Little was a huge deal to me. And when people come out here and they play our concert and there's 400 people in the audience, we were talking about how like over in Scotland, it's way different nowadays, right? Like when you guys do a recital, it's nothing like it used to be, right? Is that correct?
It's not. No, it's not the same at all. I've played in front of crowds where there's 12 people turn up.
Right.
Or I've seen other people turn up. I think I'd done a recital with Angus McCall in the Piping Centre, a fairly central part of Scotland, and a really healthy piping community. And I reckon there was 20 people at it. Mm-hmm. Where I feel that YouTube's fantastic for you guys,
right? That
you get the opportunity to, or the piping world's so much closer to you now. It's you can listen to it whenever you want, but it's killing piping, and I think in terms of, even from a recital point of view, CDs are no longer a thing either, right enough. But
yeah, not at all.
Where I think the creativity's going, I don't think there's as much of that now as there was, because there's no need for it. Recitals are a dying breed in Scotland. Only times I ever do recitals if I come across to North America, Australia, or anywhere except Scotland. Mm-hmm.
Maybe if it's any consolation, CDs have been dying since '99. Like,
yeah. I think that's fine, but there's but I think you could go that far back to see that even the creativity. Stuart's an idol of mine as well, someone I've always looked up to, been very close to in the piping world, and he's been one of a handful at the very most who's still had creativity and wanted to do something. Gordon Walker was always amazing at that as well. Mm-hmm. Angus McCall, Alistair Gillis. Too, and there's a few others, but I think even my generation, it's a part of piping that we don't really try much to do with, or do much with, I should say. We're very much looking at playing 6 MSRs and 6 Beavericks and 6 hornpipe and jigs, and not being creative enough. So for me, that's a side of piping that unfortunately is a dying breed of such. It's no longer what it needs to be.
Why do you think that is, though?
Internet.
Like that's you think YouTube, for example, and the streaming and exposure to all this is a bad thing?
To a certain extent, yes. I think it's. I mentioned before, it's great for you guys.
Sure.
But I think for your top pipers, it's very, very difficult for them to.
You think people would rather stay home and just watch because they have so many options? Like,
Absolutely.
You said it in a certain way earlier, where you're like, I could go. I'm gonna go look up Stuart Little or whoever. Mm-hmm. I know what you guys are thinking. I could just type them in, and I type them in the internet, and I see all these YouTube links. Mm-hmm. Or I could go to their live show, or I could just watch the YouTube.
Well,
links,
that's
right?
it. All the recitals are through the winter.
Right.
So it's a cold night. You can't be bored to listen to Stuart playing slow airs, but you want to listen to him play his fast Thunderstruck or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. YouTube. I'll listen to that. That's it. Great. I'm satisfied. Mm-hmm. There's one recital a year in Scotland that does well, and that's the week of Piping Live at the Alistair Gillis Memorial, where you have 4 pipers all play for half an hour each, and for me that's the highlight of the year for me. I've played at the last 2 or 3 of them now, and that's been my highlight.
That's formerly the Lord Todd, correct?
But it's also down. It's down in numbers.
No, that's sold out every year.
Not at all.
It's that's the one that it's sold out. There's 450, 500 people at it.
Do you ever like? And I'm gonna respectfully disagree on the idea that that streaming and recording is making it worse, because the people who aren't going to come, whether they can watch it or can't watch it, doesn't matter. You know, if it was 10 minutes away from my house and streamed on YouTube, I would still go watch it in person. It's a different experience. I think
you would.
Can I, just a sort of outside observation is it maybe a matter of, and this is sort of just listen to what Callum was saying, is it maybe a fact that like now you can fast forward through stuff that maybe in the moment isn't appealing for whatever reason, whereas in a sort of more traditional sense you would have heard everything that was being presented, whether you liked it or not. You would have decided that later.
I put the
now
burden.
There's sort of a push button, like you go, I don't really like. I don't feel like a pea brick right now.
I put the burden on the event.
Okay. Yeah.
For me, like I put the burden on the event and the event organizers. I mean, there's a specific reason that our concert that we're doing tomorrow isn't just a half hour of piping followed by a half hour of dancing. That we try to break it up. We try to make it a little bit different.
Another thing is it's a very crowded market in Scotland. We probably could perform at competing wise and all that. We probably playing 12, 13 times a year. So people are getting the chance to hear us every month if they want.
Which I would like.
But then again, you get sick of it. You do get sick of it. Even if it is your top players, you do get sick of it. Here, you listen to This Weekend or you hear the odd performance and you've got enough time to recharge the batteries to go, right, I'm ready to listen to it again. Where in Scotland, it's just relentless. There's so much going on.
Do you think they could succeed by creating more scarcity if they just didn't do it as much?
It could do, but I think it goes down the risk of tradition in terms of our some competitions that have been around for a long time no longer being there.
But you gotta keep in mind, tradition is the idea that you're subscribing to the voices of people who've been dead for 100 years.
Of course. No, you're absolutely right, but I think some of our older generation that played in these competitions are still around. So for us to do that just now wouldn't be the best thing. But then you could say, well, the next generation are going to say the same thing and so on. But I would feel quite strongly about these competitions being around rather than losing them. I think it's just the way it is. I genuinely do. I think I really do. You may disagree, but I really do think YouTube for me is a huge part of the way we are with piping. For you guys, it's, as I say, it's fantastic. You don't hear much live piping. That's why you're keen to listen to it. If someone comes into town, you're keen to listen to it. I've seen it myself. There's sometimes Fred Morrison's another piper I absolutely love going to watch. For me, he's the best entertainer. He is my
insane.
He probably is my favorite.
He's the most redneck piper. I love him to death.
But he is an entertainer. Stuart's an entertainer, but
While also still being very technically
exactly
amazing.
Do you think that there's a midpoint that can be achieved between oversaturating the market with every fucking month we play and also kind of a little bit of deference to realizing that people can be oversaturated, and also it helps the entire community to kind of have access to the music.
Of course, I think our season's so long. We play from pretty much from Kansas City in January all the way through to the first week in November. We're probably going at it non-stop through that time. So you're actually only getting 6-7 weeks off a year. And if someone asks you to do a recital in that time, this is a different occasion. This is the chance for us to come somewhere really nice and do something. But it's hard work. It's hard work. And do you really want to play in a cold hall in front of whatever it is at that time of year in Scotland? No, you don't. Do you want to go and listen to that after listening to these people through the year? I don't think you want to. I would. I probably wouldn't. I'd probably be the same. I'd like great piper, but I'm sick of it just now. It's the season is for me way too long, and the demand. That's
been the thing I've heard from a lot of people that are playing in the UK.
Well, if you compare that to here, piping wise, we have. I've been sitting here sort of trying to count them, and I'm a piping loving drummer.
I mean, West Coast, we're maybe 8 active months.
But look at the major events where people can listen to truly world class playing.
3.
Yeah, 3 is what I've come up with. Kansas City, Seattle, the Benaroya Hall, Celtic Arts Foundation with Sky Rickenriffer, and the Metro Cup are probably the 3 most magnificent piping events in North America, and that's it. That's not to say that there aren't others, but like other events. But those are where you get a chance to hear the best of the best of the best of the moment every year.
Well, and I'm interested to see what you think about this after tomorrow, because here, there are people lining up. There are people lining up to watch you two play, man. I mean, and the band's included. Like, there's a specific reason that we could. Jesus Christ.
Sorry, this is getting really serious.
Like there's a reason that we bring out people of y'all's caliber, and we don't do it for the audience because the audience doesn't fucking know the difference.
Yeah.
If you and Zach or me and Bryce played in front of that same fucking audience, they wouldn't know that we're not as good as these two. But
they would know there's a difference. They wouldn't know why.
But like when these two come, one of my favorite metaphors is like every time we have like when Alistair comes, when Jack comes, when Stuart came, when you're here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to relight this stick. Don't worry about it. One of my favorite moments is when the soloists are playing. The people we brought in, the people we paid to come from far away to come and play this show, and all of the band members are in the wings watching, just like the audience is watching, and that is the moment where I'm like people, I can see people get a little more inspired, a little more excited. Why'd you have to do that right before I was dropping an emotional point?
I'm trying to be very respectful of Josh's emotion at this moment because he's hitting a great.
And you guys
point,
will see it. You guys will see
terrible.
it. Like when you guys play, you'll see a lot of blue kills in the wings where the audience can't see them and they're all watching. And that is the whole point, was bring in people. Every time we have a guest player, it's not for the audience. It's for the band. It's for us. It's for us to hang out, meet people, listen to better playing.
Don't think we'll be around tomorrow.
I'm gonna go light this again because Fusco is rotten inside.
Dude, I've been rotten for a week. I've just been stirring.
Fusco, come up with an out.
I was just gonna agree with you. Oh wait, hold on. I got an out.
Ring the bell.
Oh yeah, sorry, we got to drink to that. I was just going to agree with you. The whole point of having the Callum Beaumonts of the world to our event And they're in your Hoinacki's now. Now we added a drummer.
Oh my goodness.
It's pretty awful, right? Is the inspiration of our own players.
That's inspiring, guys.
Why are you making me edit?
It's definitely moving me inside.
Oh my god. My insides have been moving. Oh my
Hear
god.
them on the microphone, gurgling and sputtering for the last 3
Jesus
hours.
Christ.
Hey, you know, what am I gonna do?
Yeah.
I am what I am.
All right, so we're nearing the end of the episode. I got to go around the table doing last thoughts. I'm going to skip Fusco because as soon as I say last thoughts, he's just going to shit his pants again. I feel like this episode has gone kind of through the gamut. We've talked a lot about the piping scene. God, there's so much more I want to ask you guys, but we gotta close off the episode. We talked about the piping scene when it comes to highs and lows, when it comes to what's right, what's wrong, digital media, how to be a good instructor, how to be a good student. I'm going to go counterclockwise on final thoughts. Callum, starting with you, what are your final thoughts to wrap up this episode?
As Gary West says on Pipeline, enjoy your piping.
Fair play. He's struggling to breathe. So. Cobra, what you got?
Yeah, the words that I was gonna say were find your joy and use that as motivation, whether it's to improve or simply to play more because you love this instrument for whatever reason, but you love it, and just do more of it and try and get a little bit of something out of each of those times. Yeah, that's absolutely critical, is truly loving what you're doing, and you will get better because of that, one way or another.
Fair play. Fusco, I regret this immediately, but what are your final thoughts?
And with
Don't
that,
cough on your own mic, asshole. You're just going to make yourself sick
you
again.
can take that to the bank.
All right, my final thoughts would be thank you very much to our guests, Cobra, all the way from the city of Chicago Pipe Band, Mr. Callum Blowmont. I'm very excited to share the stage with both of you tomorrow. Thank you so much for putting up with our nonsense this entire evening.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
And we're gonna close out this episode. Fusco,
I think we should have the boys play us out because, well, I don't know why not.
yeah,
No, you're not
okay,
feeling
cool, yeah. I could say I was gonna say Fusco play us out, but I knew you just shit your pants again.
Yeah, you don't
And
want
that chair can only take so much. So, Josh, when you're editing this later, play us out.
Wait.
I'm gonna have to burn that chair.
You can't have anything left.
You know, like, I don't really love Isla, but this is perfect for the amount of contribution to the instrument.
It's kind of like kill the nostrils.
Yeah.
right?
There's
God
just
damn,
there's just
man.
enough like campfire to cover what's coming out of your asshole.
Write that down as an episode title. Enough campfire to cover your asshole.